This is actually going to be a panel discussion, and I have the honor of hosting and moderating this conversation with Christopher Piersnick, who's the Director of Enterprise Analytics at St. Joseph's, and Bill Balnov, who's the Vice President of Global Solutions Engineering at Pyramid Analytics. Definitely stay tuned for this conversation and ask us a lot of questions and comments. Most of the conversation will actually come from questions from the audience. And again, Pyramid Analytics is giving away another set of AirPods for great questions and comments that come in. So we're going to talk about bringing data to life, how data storytelling techniques are influencing better outcomes with St. Joseph's Health. St. Joseph, and I'll give you some background here, just so to set the context for where we're going to take the conversation, and so you know what kind of questions to ask. But St. Joseph's is one of the largest hospital systems in New Jersey. They're based in Paterson, New Jersey. The award-winning hospital features the St. Joseph's University Medical Center, St. Joseph's Children's Hospital on Paterson campus, St. Joseph's Wayne Medical Center, which is an acute care community hospital on the hospital's Wayne campus, St. Joseph's Healthcare and Rehab Center in nearby Cedar Grove, and more than 30 New Jersey community-based facilities. One truly important fact I'll state right now is that this hospital is listed as one of the top 10 busiest emergency rooms in the country, not only New Jersey, but in the country. So people here definitely don't have time to figure out, what does this number mean or what does that number mean? So definitely wanted to set that stage. Like any hospital system wrestling with rising healthcare costs and a competitive medical environment, not to mention the incredible pressure to operate in the midst of this global pandemic, St. Joseph's is keen to use business intelligence and analytics to increase financial performance, negotiate better rates with insurers and payers, in short, lower costs without sacrificing the quality of care. The hospital system features a huge IT infrastructure spread out amongst its primary management units. At its core is a Cerner Millennium implementation that sits on a Microsoft SQL Server database. To help them manage these challenges, they partnered with Pyramid Analytics. Pyramid is an enterprise-grade business intelligence and analytics platform that supports full self-service workflow in a governed environment. With Pyramid, users can easily prepare, model, visualize, analyze, publish, and present data to make informed business decisions. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Chris Piersnick, like I mentioned, Director of Enterprise Analytics at St. Joseph's Health, and briefly introduce him first. He's got over 20 years of experience in finance, IT, and decision support, ranging from nonprofit and healthcare to Fortune 500 multinationals with strengths in reporting, analysis, creative thinking, strategy, presenting, leadership, and interpersonal communications. All right, Christopher, hello. Welcome to the DATAcated Conference. And I cannot hear you. But as you fix your audio issues, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Bill Balnov, who's the VP of Solutions Engineering with Pyramid. Bill has spent the last 2 decades in the enterprise software space. He brings significant experience selling, building, and supporting solutions that enable organizations to harness the business value of their existing data and technology investments. I'm going to go ahead and bring up Bill, and hopefully...
Is it working? Can you hear me?
I can hear Bill. Can I hear Chris?
Awesome. Oh, poor Chris.
Oh, no, Chris.
Chris, I can't talk for you.
Unplug the headphones. Let's see if that works. Now you're on mute. So
No.
This is great. This is a...
Well, it's a great way to end the...
I think I heard Chris. Nope. Oh no, Chris, another option, use the StreamYard link with your phone and join us with the phone. For now, we're gonna go to some questions about the conference itself. We've got questions about the recordings. Are recordings gonna be available from these sessions? Yes, we're actually sending out all of the recordings tomorrow. I've been hard at work trying to get, let me let Chris go from there, trying to get all the recordings from each session, and we're going to have them. Yes, Chris is speaking brilliantly. I agree. I think Chris is doing a great job. Bill, welcome to the show. Have you been keeping up with the conference?
I have, absolutely. I was very happy to see our CEO in action earlier today. Thought he did a great job. Love John's stuff. I love, I'm sorry, the guy who was just up. Although George, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, I could see the G in my head, but I'm like, George. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Chris is going to ask me now about scrolly telling and getting other stuff into, into the product. I'm like, madly taking notes to figure out how we set that up for him now that he's got all these amazing ideas. Yeah, this is Kate. The content's been amazing. So it's fantastic and like really happy to be part of the session today.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So wait, you don't have scrolly telling built into Pyramid?
Of course we do. We just added it.
The chat feature that Omri was showing off today.
That's it's interesting because there's as a product guy, right? I love it because it shows itself really well. But then the question is always, okay, practically, can I actually use that thing, right? Like, and I thought you brought up a great point about like you kind of have to know the language. I think our dev group did a really good job of adding in a thesaurus and things like that. I've played around with it, and like there are some things it actually gets right, and then sometimes you can confuse it. But for the most part, it does actually have some practical application, so it's good.
Yeah, well, I think it's great because I think we're moving towards a method of basically business users and leaders talking to their dashboards versus asking, hey, data analyst, can you put this together for me? And I want to change this chart. So empowering the user to directly play with that data, as long as they know what they're talking about, like as long as they know what they're visualizing, I think that can go a long way.
It's absolutely the way that it should be. And, I will tell you, like I'm, in the management positions that I've had, I've never been one to like, hey, put my PowerPoint together and let me present it. It's always been like, I actually want to get my hands on the data itself. So yeah, I think it's hugely important. And I think listening to Jordan earlier, talking about the C-suite and some of the things that he said, I liked the straight talk, and he's right. He's right.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely remember the PowerPoint days, and when some of the people I worked with, they're like, I want to change this, but I don't know how. And you could see the frustration. It's a small edit they want to make, and then yet they need the help of consultants who know how to use PowerPoint really well to give them exactly what they need. So I think it's the same thing here.
Or you get asked the question of, well, where did that number come from, or what's behind that number? And it's like, oh, I can't click into that. I can't ask it more questions. It's PowerPoint, right? It doesn't do anything. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know if you saw the thing with the cat that's been floating around, where there's a lawyer who signs into a Zoom call and he has a cat filter on, so he looks like a cat and he can talk. But oh my God, okay, you'll have to see it. But Brianna here says at least he's not a cat because Chris is not here. But it was actually so hilarious because the guy is like, I'm willing to move forward, and he's an actual, like, he looks like a cat, a talking cat who's nodding and like shaking his head. And then he ends the conversation with, I'm really here. I'm not a cat. So that's what. So I think while we wait for Chris, hopefully he can figure out how to join us with either a different.
And I'm happy to give a little bit of a plug and what I know about St. Joe's and that. Like I had no desire to kind of be the center of attention for this particular session. I really wanted it to be Chris. So I'm happy to start to talk a little bit about that, and hopefully he jumps in and then he can be the color on top of it. So St. Joe's has been a customer of ours for a couple of years, but they fell into that whole, and I don't know what the actual stat is, but they talk about how 70% of BI projects fail, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. They kind of fell into that whole bucket of the 70% in that they had stuff in place, but nobody was really using it. And, what's great about the St. Joe story is that at the top, the CEO said, we need to get more out of our analytics investment. They tapped Chris because of kind of his proclivity for data and his talent and things like that, and said, Chris, like, go make this investment worth something. Like, we need more data. We need better data. We need it all the time. I'm tired of looking at, and Chris will tell the story of like PDFs printed out and just crazy stuff all over the place. And what was great about the situation with Chris is that, he called us up and he's like, look, I've been asked to do this. I already own your product. Nobody's using it. What do we do? And he gave us the opportunity to take some of the experience that we've had doing stuff for other people and be creative. And I think maybe it was Jordan, somebody else, George, everybody's been to some degree have mentioned creativity and talking about it, right? And this was the opportunity for us to, he said, you know what, go, just do some stuff and then let's get together and figure out what works and what doesn't. And we did. And I think it's, you know, from the vendor side, it's nice to have the opportunity to do that, as opposed to kind of living this whole do exactly what the customer tells you to do and all of that, and not have the opportunity to actually offer good ideas. And you know, we had the opportunity. We did some things, some stuff they liked, some stuff they didn't like. But what ended up happening is what we ended up creating got the attention of the C-suite, the executive folks, and it kind of, and things kind of went from there. And so now you've actually got people who are turned on to getting data and using it, and it's expanded, and he's rolling it out more and all of that. So it's just kind of one of those stories of let's step back and actually allow some creativity and flexibility and figure some things out. Try some things, some stuff worked and some didn't, but it got the ball rolling and the momentum going.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a journey that they're probably still going through. But I remember when I briefly spoke to Chris, he mentioned that it started out with they have a number, and given that it's one of the busiest emergency rooms in the country, you literally don't have time to say, oh, well, this number, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? How is this compared to what we had last week? Or, you know, how is this person actually doing? So I think analytics in this context is, I can't think of a more important context truly where we can use data visualization, data storytelling to literally save lives.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and they've just been really kind of open to trying new things and figuring things out, like I said. So, and I was really hoping Chris was going to be on at this point to be able to talk about it.
Hey, he might still make it. So
I hope so.
Yeah, another thing I remember is he did start with a bunch of PDFs, right? And I think that's one thing that a lot of companies and individuals are facing an issue is when they get a business intelligence tool and they teach, you know, let's say you come in there, Bill, and you teach them how to use it, but then the people that are in that organization are used to getting data in a certain way. They get their PDF in the morning, they get a printout, a PowerPoint, whatever that method is, or an Excel spreadsheet. I've definitely been there where I put together this beautiful dashboard. It took me a long time. I really put effort into it, made sure it really showed everything people needed, right? Had the right RGB colors. It was perfect for me. But then people didn't use it, right? So the adoption rate was pretty low. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? A lot of times it's because the dashboard sucks, right? If you're just new to data visualization and they simply get confused by all the stuff that you've put in front of them. But other times people are simply not used to working in that way. And it's going to be a journey of changing that culture, changing that behavior. So I wanted to ask if you have stories from Pyramid Analytics where you help companies kind of break through that obstacle of getting people to actually use a business intelligence tool versus doing it the way it's done.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that you talk about this, and I think this is true of St. Joe's, and certainly been true of a lot of other customers that I've worked with over the past few years. So a lot of folks are starting from either Excel or these very kind of accounting, financially laid out tables, and it's all numbers, and it's all kind of point in time, and this is very much what they're used to. And I think the mistake that I've seen is it's like all of a sudden you got a new toy and you take this dashboard and you load it up with every possible chart that you can think of, and it's great. And seriously, so if you go from the notion of like I see columns of numbers and it's point in time, and all of a sudden I'm looking at, I got a bar chart here and a cluster chart and there's bubble charts and things, it's like I don't even know what to look at. Like, where do I even start? So I think with St. Joe's, what was great was it's been this progression of, they did literally start with, you know, all these numbers. And to your point, they would look at one number and it says 437. It would be like, is that good? Is that bad? Did we go up? Did we go down? We don't know. They've transitioned from that to literally their executives looking at a dashboard with 6 line charts. It's very simple to look at, but all of a sudden they look at, okay, I can see budget, and the 437 is actually on a downward trend. It's a good thing. I can look over here and the 437 is on this upward trend. Oh, no, that's a bad thing. Yeah. And they went from that to a short time later, the ability to drill into the line chart and see a little more detail behind it and add a couple of things. So it was this progression of going from realizing like, hey, I'm starting here with caveman drawings, and I can't put you in the cockpit of a 787. I've got to lead you down the path and feed you a little at a time. I would also say at the end of the day, there is always going to be the set of people that simply want the PDF or the PowerPoint to show up in their inbox, and please do not, I'm never going to log in. I will never. But I would tell you the secret to getting to those people is this right here.
Mobile dashboard.
Every executive that I know sitting in like all of their meeting time while they're sitting through their status meetings, it's like, I'm actually scrolling through my email and looking. So if you've got the ability to deliver data in a mobile way, in a very easy to consume way, all of a sudden you've got that. Now you've got that executive's attention.
It's interesting you say that. During Jordan Morrow's conversation, a comment came up that once the C-suite person looks at their phone, that means you've lost them. But you're saying when they look at their phone, they're probably looking at a pyramid analytics dashboard.
If you can get to the phone, if you're the person they're looking at the phone, you've got their attention, right? It's interesting. I mean, having worked with a lot of these people, they're literally going from meeting to meeting to meeting, right? So their time to catch up on stuff is like, okay, I'm not paying attention. I give you my 5 minutes, and I'm now going to pay attention to my phone. Well, if you can get to them on their phone in a way that they're used to looking at, so they don't have to do all the scrolling and craziness, but the salient points are right there and easy to consume. Now you've got their attention in a much more proactive and interactive way than sending them the PDF or the PowerPoint.
I have a surprise for you, Bill. You ready? Dun dun dun!
Oh, there he is.
You're on mute still. Let's take it off mute and let's see if we can hear you.
Microphone check.
Yes, look at that. We're doing it.
Oh, Chris, man, I'm starting to sweat here.
Guys, this is the last session, so we can keep going.
Oh, fantastic.
Until Olympic puts us down. So, Chris.
I always like to make a fashionably late entrance to a party. So,
I mean, you are the star of the show, and we tested this a couple of times today. So, technology is definitely not our friend, but I think Bill and I have described some of the history of kind of what you went through at St. Joseph. But if you want to do another recap for the audience here, that would be great, of just your journey of starting out with Pyramid and where you are now.
Sure, and once again, I apologize. I'm going to blame my kids for the audio problems, but they're always the easiest targets. So I'm not sure what you guys already touched on, but basically we're a 150 some odd year old hospital, and sometimes we operate like a 150-year-old hospital, at least away from the clinical side. We don't use leeches or anything, but coming from finance, my CEO, Kevin Slavin, was sick of looking at spreadsheets all the time and just wanted to kind of move into a futuristic, or at least modern, area of being able to see a story in a visual quickly. What is happening, not just today, but this year, this month, this quarter. And so I moved over from finance analytics, and working with Pyramid, we've been able to revamp a lot of things that were on a PDF or an email or a spreadsheet to give it the kind of visual of a quick hit, what's happening right now in the morning. And it's been really, really successful. And so, we're just continuing the process. Right now, we're really deep into doing it for COVID vaccine information. Last year it was for COVID positives and testing and stuff like that. So just giving our executives especially an idea of what's happening without them having to open an email, download an attachment, open the attachment, go to page 82, and try to figure out where the answer is. I have some slides to show, but I don't want to break everything again. So
no, I don't think. Okay, so we'll save the slides after we take at least a couple of questions from the audience, if that's okay.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful.
I don't think I'll say anything, but maybe your kids are at it again. What can I say? So we'll start with a question here from Ivan. This is, if you can share this, how did you prove the financial ROI for St. Joseph's? Is it in terms of investment, 2x, 3x? I'm always curious about how people prove the financial ROI for going after business intelligence tools, because obviously you're saving so much time. You're saving so many man hours of looking for page 82, scrolling, going to that PDF. But did you guys have some sort of ROI in place?
Not really. The one thing we had was more of a gut feel, anecdotal idea of can we advance this and get something out of it that we're not currently getting? And to be quite honest, we had Pyramid for several years before I had moved over into my current role, and I don't think we were using it to its fullest extent. And so I think that was part of it. We're already invested in with this great company who has wonderful people that are willing to help all hours of the day and night. Let's try to put some more manpower behind it and get that kind of ROI. So it was more just a feeling of, I would like some visualizations and analytics, and then, not overnight, but relatively quickly, it happened. And so the direction the organization wanted to move, we were right there and sometimes in the lead of doing that.
Very interesting. Thank you. We got another question here for you. Did you set up an organizational culture and change program when you were rolling this out?
Sort of. A little bit. It was more of a when I'd come in, I had seen a lot of, here's what we have, you take it. And what I wanted to do was more of a, what can we do for you? What would you like to see? So it was a lot of communication, interviewing of executives and directors, and then a lot of, I don't like to use the term hand-holding, a lot of collaboration on, here's something new, or here's something we already have that I don't think you realize how great it is. So how about pre-COVID, how about I come to your office post-COVID? How about I set up a call and we'll walk through it? And I think a lot of your questions are answered with a couple clicks rather than sending an email or waiting for a report or what have you.
Yes.
Still a work in progress, though, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I'm sure then right before you joined us again, we were talking about how this is a journey that everyone's on a different point in their journey. And I don't know if it ever actually ends. There's a destination, there's a goal, but I don't know if there's ever an end to that journey. Question here from Cynthia. So I know you touched on this a little bit just now, but could you give any advice to accelerate data-driven transformation in pharma and healthcare industries?
The one that I've learned for our organization that has really worked is to show both the before and after. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if they are using a certain report, in my case, it was a PDF, and we had some really cool new visualization, I showed both of them. I didn't just say, here's your new thing, we're getting rid of your old thing, and you're going to love it. It was more of, okay, you still love this, and you have it, and we still have it, but here's another way to look at it. And it's the same information, and they can look at it and double check because, they want to do that. And you say, look, I know you like this, and I know you're used to it, but I think this adds more value. But if you're not yet comfortable with it, we'll still give you this, but just be aware that we want to move in this direction. And for me, that has really given a lot of people, it's made them feel better because they don't feel like they're being just abandoned into this new thing that they're not comfortable with yet. So it's just kind of, I look at it as, and I swear this is not a plug, but I look at it like an actual pyramid where you look at it from the top, it's a point. You look at it from the bottom, it's a square. And you look at it from the side, it's a triangle. And so it's the same thing from 3 different views. And that's kind of how I sell it to them. Whereas this is the same thing as you already have. It's the same, but better in a way. Right. And that has really, really been beneficial for us.
That's great. I've actually had a similar experience where I would take the dashboard to those non-believers, right? They're like, oh, I'm used to doing things my way, which was Excel. Very, very detailed Excel file that would literally crash when you open it. And then if you touch it, God forbid, that thing would just load for 20 minutes and then the screen of death. But anyways, I bring that with me to show them the comparison of here are the numbers and they tie out. And I think that helped in getting people on board. But what were some of the actual, real life reactions when you brought the PDF and the dashboard in front of people?
At first it was, how do I know this is the same, right? How do I know this matches? Because I like to say that a lot of times they're leaning towards not moving to the new thing. They're leaning no. So you have to go more than 50% to pull them over to yes. And so I would show them, here's your PDF or here's your Excel. But is it really telling you what you want to know? Does it have trending? Does it have the full view of what you want? And most of the time they would say, well, not really. And I'd say, well, this does. and it matches, and pick a number on here, I'll show it to you on here. And the dates line up and everything lines up. So you can still have this as a crutch, but this gives you more information and it gives it to you quicker. And thank you to Pyramid, it gives it to you prettier.
Pretty is important, as we've been talking about in this whole day of on data storytelling. Got to make it presentable. Absolutely.
I think we've all had experiences of people who've done some great work, but it doesn't catch the eye, or it's confusing, like the previous session where, too much going on, too many colors, and someone they just give up and they walk away. And to my point of, like, if they're leaning no, they're looking for any excuse to not buy in. So you have to make it simple enough, but also detailed enough at the same time. And it's a tricky line to walk.
Well, yeah, I guess you need that simplicity up front with the ability to drill down into the detail if they needed it, without the huge Excel file and PowerPoint that go along with it, right?
Right. Because a lot of times in my experience, they want to know it's there. They may not want the detail, but they want to know it's there. It just makes them feel better that if they ever do want it, it's there, but they're not always wanting it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. I want to shift the conversation a little bit into implementing business intelligence solutions at organizations, because Chris, I think what you are for St. Joseph's is a data champion, right? You're there, you're hand holding, you're supporting, you're showing this to people. And Bill, I wanted to hear your perspective, in working with all sorts of clients from different industries. How important is it to have a data champion in the organization that kind of does what Chris is doing?
It's 100% the difference between it actually being successful and getting what Chris talked about earlier, which is we had this thing for years and we just never really did anything with it, right? But I would tell you, it's a combination of a data champion like Chris, but you also need somebody from an executive perspective who is also willing to say, yeah, we need to get more out of this investment, and we're going to do more than just look at numbers on PowerPoint. We're actually going to drive discussions and use data more regularly and get into more of the detail and all of those kinds of things. I think it's really important. You've got to have both, and if you don't, you're not successful.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a kind of funny question here. It's what's your CEO's look? What was the look on their face when you finally moved from spreadsheet to mobile? It doesn't have to be the CEO, but the end user of the dashboard. What was their look when they finally got to see it on the phone?
So it's pretty great because at least in my experience, they're skeptical and they're expecting almost like a stone tablet and chisel kind of situation, and you show them this and it's fantastic, and it's what they see, they've heard about or they've seen these other companies do, and all of a sudden we have it internally. The first thing they say is wow. The second thing they say is this is great, and then inevitably the third thing they ask for is a whole bunch of more stuff right away that does the same thing.
Amazing. Yes. Yes, I've seen that too. Once they say the wow, you're in trouble, because then they're like, can I also get this and this, and that and more, and then they think that you're just a website developer and you can create everything for them, which I guess these days you actually can.
And they want it immediately. Yes.
Oh yeah, today everything. Just click a few buttons. It should be done today. Yes. Avinash is asking, how do you create a clutter-free dashboard for a pitch? So, moving into the data storytelling side of things, what tactics have you used to design dashboards and data visualizations that can help share the story that you're trying to tell?
So for us we started very, very basic. We started with just, to be quite honest, very basic line graphs, just trended line graphs. And I know that's, it's not sexy, it's kind of boring, but to move over from where people were, it's a good starting point, and it's a good starting point for us as well. And that also, it's clean and it's clear, and you can see, are we going up or down, right? And so it's very easy to understand quickly. And that's where we started. And we just said, look, this is just the beginning. This is step one, but you see the foundation of what can happen as we move on. And I think that was the big thing, because, as everyone's been talking about all day today, you don't want to start with too much and overwhelm them, and then they don't even know where to begin. So we started with very basic, important metrics that we knew people wanted to see on on more than just a snapshot basis. And we showed it to them very basic line graphs. And we just said, there's more to come. We can do more things, but here's the beginning. And if you like it, we can add to it. But this is the foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to hear from both of you what your thoughts are about people trusting the data, right? Because this is why they want their PDFs or their Excel files, and kind of share your thoughts on how data storytelling can help enhance trust in whatever people are seeing. I know you actually bring the reports with you, but do you also kind of tell a story to help them use the visualizations and dashboards?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that we transformed was a daily PDF that was the executive flash report. And it was just a daily rundown of important metrics, number of people in a bed, how many outpatient surgeries, things like that. But it was only what happened that day. And so you look at a number, you say, oh, there's 90 people in the bed. Is that good? Is that bad? Is that a lot? Is that a little? Is that more than last week? Is that more than last year? And so what I would do was I would bring that and I would say, how do you know what is this telling you on a larger than this morning's situation? How is this helping you make long-term decisions and strategic decisions? And then I would say, how about this? And I would show them our graph, which had this year, last year, and this year's budget, and 3 lines. And again, basic, but 3 lines saying, look, right away you can see we're better than last year, or we're struggling a little bit, but we're better than our budget or what have you. And you can see that as the month went on or as the quarter went on, we went up. And you can't get that from this PDF that we have. You can absolutely get it from our visualizations.
Yes, that's a transformation. Bill, I wanted to check if you had something to add to that before we move on.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. I appreciate it. I would add a couple of things. One, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Guess what? You're not going to get it right for the first time. You absolutely won't. Right? People won't agree. So I think, Chris has said it. You've heard it before today. Start with less. Less is more. As I think about putting a dashboard together, and as I think about the dashboards that I've used successfully in meetings and to drive a point or whatever, obviously, if you think about the objective that you're trying to achieve, is it interactive? Are you just trying to drive a point home and build to that? And then typically, and I think I saw it in the comment stream, 1 or 2 KPIs. And think about going left or right or top down, and it's 1 or 2 KPIs, and then there's a chart that supports, and then there's a table that's got the detailed data from that, and it all lines up. So you can go, because what I've found is that people go at the top number like, I don't believe that. Where does that come from? Yeah. And you have the ability to go, nope, look here, here's the data and that. And then, of course, as long as you've got some filters and slicers and things like that, so that you can, because invariably you're going to get the question of like, well, what is it for this part of this office or this hospital or this geography or what, right? And then again, just realize like you're not always going to get it perfect. So no, you'll have to change as you go.
And that helps you build trust too, right? Because if they say, well, where is this coming from? And you show them where it is and how it fits in this table, then they say, oh, okay, this is great. And then when you come back to them a month later with a different dashboard, a different visualization, they're already trusting you because they know you've done the work behind the scenes to make it match, to make it tie.
And yeah. I'll add on to that. When they say, oh, that data's wrong, you say, you don't cringe and go, oh my God, I screwed up. You go, thank God we discovered that the data was wrong. Let's go back and fix that. We did that. Like no kidding. True story. Customer who'd been looking at a dashboard for a very long period of time, and they decided to maybe look at some other technology and did a proof of concept with us. And we, for the life of us, could not get our numbers to match their number. And that was part of it. You got to make your dashboard's got to match our numbers. So we kind of go into this triage session and we start to run some SQL queries, and all of a sudden realize like, oh, that number that they'd been looking at for years was being calculated completely wrong.
Oh man.
And it was like, oh, so, fortunately for them, it wasn't like business ending or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, when you get it wrong or when you're called out to that, it's a good thing, right? You turn it into a good thing of like, hey, this is an opportunity to improve now. And we've discovered something that needs to get fixed.
Wow, what a great way to spin it. I mean, yeah, data visualization is the easiest way to find your errors or wrong numbers in your data. At this point, I think, Chris, let's risk it. Let's share your screen. You want to do this?
Yeah. All right.
We're close enough to wrapping up. So click share and let's bring it on.
I apologize to everyone if this doesn't work.
I got a good feeling.
Yes, I'm hopeful as well. I'm always optimistic.
Okay. Here we go. Is that working?
I don't see anything coming up yet. Are you doing this on purpose or no?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You should just like turn off your camera for fun and be like, oh, oops.
Did you
There
get
we
it?
go.
Yeah.
I see it. All right.
All right.
And
So
we're
There we
live.
go.
this is the Flash PDF I referenced previously. And so I took data from a year ago just to make it easier to understand pre-COVID world. So this is a snapshot day and time on a Friday. And so as I was saying, it has these numbers here and it has the budget, but I'm not really getting a story of what's really happening. I mean, kind of, but not really. So one thing I wanted to focus on, and this is what I would share when I would take this out, I would say, look at the census number. Okay, there it is, total census, and the actual was 437. Here is what we built in Pyramid, and this is actually the older version. It looks even better now, I promise. But here is your census. Here it is, and here's your 437. And right there, immediately you get trust because they say, oh, okay, that same number, got it. And here you can see that 437 is lower than we were last year, but a little bit higher than what we had budgeted. So not bad. And then, drilling in a little bit more, you do a little bit more detail, census, and there's your 437. Pops up right there. So again, now they've seen two different visualizations that match this form and file that they're used to seeing. And so that for us was, look, this matches. These numbers are the numbers you're used to seeing, but this screen is showing you a whole lot more than the other one. And so is this screen. This screen's giving you 6 of the most important metrics in a quick hit kind of view that just help you make better strategic decisions.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's a huge transformation. People are commenting here that your kids must not be around at this point because it worked.
I locked them in the closet so they wouldn't mess anything else up. So
that's great. That's great. I think we Bill, any reactions to the screen share before I go to another question?
No, I mean, it was, the picture's worth 1,000 words. So we'll stick with the picture. We don't need the 1,000 words.
That's funny. So there's a question here from Sophie. She's asking, great insights. How do you ensure the wrong number or calculation is not in your data? Meaning that you didn't calculate it wrong.
Yeah, you can't always. I mean, it's that I think is one of the possibilities and one of the downsides that happen. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can't always turn that, hey, I found a wrong number, into we've saved the data. Sometimes it's, yeah, crap, sorry about that, I got the calculation wrong and I got to go back and fix it. And but don't worry, I will. I know it's wrong. Yes.
We've got a lot of questions coming in now that people have seen the presentation. So one question here from Kimberly. Have your KPIs changed as a result of the new data tool?
It's a good question. Yes, and as a result of, we've had some changes in executive leadership. So those two things have really led to someone coming in and saying, this is great, but I actually want to see this, and I want to see it trended in the way you showed me those other things. So yes, and it goes back to that whole thing where, wow, this is awesome. Now here's my scroll of everything else I want, just like it right now. So yeah, to a certain extent, yes. We were in a meeting yesterday talking about which of those metrics do we want to keep, which ones do we want to trade out for something else. What are better now that things are changing to view on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And I think I'll take one last question from the audience. But before I do that, I wanted to ask Bill, where can people go to learn more about pyramid analytics, maybe get a trial? If you guys have a trial, where can they do that?
So there's 2 places I'm going to recommend you go. First of all, you can go to our website, www.pyramidanalytics.com. Trial software there. The other place to go is community.pyramidanalytics.com, which is not only kind of the stuff you get from us, the vendor, but it's folks like Chris and other users talking about how they're using the product and asking questions and having conversation. And there's just a ton of great information in the community there as well. So like a lot of the advice you see scrolling by on comments and things like that, you get that level of interaction there. So recommend both of those places.
You can also ask me too, because I will.
Well, Chris, there you go.
I will preach about the greatness of Pyramid and how they've been super helpful, and especially for me coming from finance, I wasn't a data guy, I wasn't a coder or anything like that. They really helped bring me and my team really far along, and just helped us every step of the way and continue to do so. So I will preach their greatness myself.
Thanks, Chris.
That's amazing. Bill, you've got the best customer on here. My goodness.
I gotta say, seriously. Well, you didn't think I was going to bring somebody who wasn't negative, did you? No, by the way, not paying Chris anything at all. It has been a lot of fun working through all of this with you. So it's been great.
Yeah, that's great. We're getting a lot of comments that you guys are having a great exchange, and people are loving the conversation. We do have time for one last question, and I think you can both address this. This is from Rhodey. Do your executives miss the bullets, images, text boxes that PowerPoint allows?
You want to go first, Bill?
Yeah, sure. I will. Absolutely. In my experience, yes, absolutely. At the end of the day, and I think I said it before, there's always going to be that person that wants to see that stuff. And look, I actually think that is part of an entire data story, right? Numbers and structured data are not the whole story. I think it's important to incorporate those things into your data storytelling and into your monthly reporting and all that. Is that fair, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Because when a really important presentation needs to be done, we'll take something from Pyramid and we'll throw it into a PowerPoint and add a couple of bullets. So, so we kind of merge the two because it's a comfort thing, right? And it's just they feel more comfortable speaking to it this way and having some quick notes and text boxes. So yes, absolutely. And I'm not crazy enough to, I'm a data champion. I'm not crazy enough to go tell them that they can't have their PowerPoint. So there is a line I won't even cross.
Yes, I absolutely get that. We've done that before at my clients as well, where we take a screenshot or copy paste the image into a PowerPoint, write a narrative around it. And sometimes you have to give the people what they want, but at least Pyramid enables you to have that visual that's easily grabbable and placed in the PowerPoint versus having to build it or use the PDFs and Excel spreadsheets.
That's another thing that I always say when I'm teaching or training or working with someone. I say you can always export this to Excel or Word or PowerPoint, however you feel more comfortable. But stay here, but if you want to take it, you can. So that it is actually a really good tool that can do that and make people feel more comfortable. Again, it's all about getting them comfortable so that they'll keep coming back.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Awesome. Well, guys, we are at time. Chris, I'm so glad you were able to join us. And Bill, thank you so much for your time. And it worked.
I'm sorry again.
It was awesome.
It worked out. Yeah.
A really great way to wrap up the conversation on data storytelling.